Hi, I'm Siofra Bradigan, and this is Siofra's Magic Alcove. So today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about your own personal psychic protection and home psychic protection. We did a video talking about how to ghost-proof your house, which is sort of an extreme situation. Most people never actually have the need for doing that, but most of us have enough abilities that we feel impinged upon, influenced by people that we know, the things they might be thinking or saying about us. And sometimes it makes us feel sort of under attack or out of balance. And the farther you go into this path, into magic and working with other planes and other energies, the more you'll begin to notice those things when they're not the way they're supposed to be. So, learning how to take charge of and be in control of your personal environment is sort of critically important. And the farther in you go, the more you end up having to protect that part of your work so that you can have the clarity that you need to be able to do what is coming along and what you feel you need to do for yourself. So we'll start talking about first what you can do on your property if you have a house you're living in, for example. And if you have a fence, you can put things on your fence in order to create a barricade of energy, a notification, and a passive psychic resistance to intrusive or unwelcome thoughts from others. My yard, what I've done is I've taken some colorful floats. They're small glass balls. I've got 4-inch balls of glass floats that I used of different colors and decorated them. In my case, I decorated them with the different stones of the elements. I have like a turquoise ball that has aquamarine on it. I have a red ball that has like tiger eye and such on it. So you get the idea. That's not the important part. The important part is thinking about what the ball represents. And these are kind of ancient ways cultures across the world use to protect things. And other passerbys, unless you do what I did and stick a bunch of pentagrams on them, aren't going to know that this is even pagan or witch related. They're just going to think that you're decorating your yard. But the idea of the ball is that thoughts and energy coming onto your property, if they're negatively inclined, will get caught inside that globe and kind of bounce around inside of it and never quite make it to your house. So putting them out on the perimeter of your property, if you have a fence, is sort of ideal. But you can, buy other kinds of yard decorations. Like they have those gazing balls that they sell on a stand that you can put in your yard. There's any number of different things that you can use. Another pretty traditional psychic protection is fishnet. They used fishnet a lot, and of course those globes kind of go along with the whole fishnet idea, so you can make it a theme if you want to. And again, it's the same notion. It's like you have the net, and the net is kind of like a spider web, and it catches things as it comes in. So another thing that's very traditional would be wind chimes. And when you put your wind chimes up, focus on what you want them to do. I mean, some people put up wind chimes to bring luck. So whenever the bell rings and the wind blows, that's to bring luck to your house. And some people put it up to chase away negative energy because, I guess according to lore, negative spirits don't like the sound of a bell. I'm not sure why, since they don't have ears, but hey, we can work with it, right? It's whatever your visual centers and your imagination can hold on to. So no one's going to know what your bells are for except for you or the people that you tell. So certainly you can use bells. And of course they have the witch's bells that you can make and hang on your doorknob. So anytime someone opens the door, it makes a jingling sound, and that's supposed to discourage enemies from entering your property, keep negative energy out. the witch's bottle inside. We've talked about how to make it, and the 4 thieves vinegar to use with that if you want to. But these are all the same ideas. Like all of these little things, they slowly start to add up, and they become kind of a more solidified wall of protection. Another thing that you can do in your house is small mirrors. You can get these little 2-inch or 1-inch craft mirrors from just about any craft store. You can buy them online. They're not that expensive, and they're small enough to work with, and you place them in your windows facing out, so that sort of creates a natural shielding. Anything negative that comes at you is bounced off the mirror and back to the sender. For those who don't like that idea, you have to find something else to use, because I discovered that some people think that that's a very aggressive thing to do. I'm not one of those people. I think if someone's sending me negative energy, if they get a backlash from it, that's just their own fault. They stop sending me negative stuff, they stop getting negative stuff. That's kind of the way that works. I actually have a funny story about that. When I lived in a communal household, I had one of my housemates who was really annoyed with me, and our bedrooms actually shared a wall, even though we were in different parts of the house. And I happened to have my dresser had a mirror and was on that wall. And I started going to sleep, and I kept seeing all these different figures, thought forms, and stuff in my room. And I thought, okay, I can't sleep with those, so I'd ground them out and make them disappear and start to go to sleep, and then they would be back. This happened several times until I finally realized they weren't mine, which is why they kept coming back. And I looked up and I saw them coming through the mirror between our walls, and I realized that she was really upset with me. And without even thinking about it, it was just sort of an automatic reflex. I had a small mirror on a little wooden stand, and I just went up to my dresser, picked up the mirror, turned it around to face the mirror that was on our wall, and just bounced them straight back and went to bed and went to sleep with no problems. The woman, when I got up in the morning, looked like, I don't know, she'd been up all night not able to sleep, pretty much. Didn't look very good. And I asked her how she slept, and she said, I couldn't sleep at all. And I said, well, it's not nice to send such nasty thoughts in someone else's direction. She says, I know. She says, but I just couldn't help myself. So she got a lesson out of it, and I got an interesting little method of self-protection out of it. I don't know if she learned the lesson or not. We've lost touch. I've never seen her again. She was only a housemate for a short period of time. But I figure I deserve to have a good night's sleep, and I'm not going to let some random person who's having their own thought processes shout at me in my direction and make it so I can't sleep. So mirrors work really well. You can use mirrors, the physical mirrors, like I just talked about. You can also do that with your own personal shield, with the energy shield that you're building by doing the meditation, the sacred tree meditation, and pulling the energy up and down and filling your aura with that energy. Because that can be one of the images that you use, so that when you're going out, I have mine, it's sort of like, I don't know, oil on water sort of a look to it to me, sort of like, how oil sheen and colors on the surface of water. And that's the visualization I use for my personal shield. And so if something negative comes in my direction, it sort of changes into a mirror right there and then sends it back to them. Again, if you don't like the idea of doing that, you don't have to do it. That's just one of the things. Everyone gets to do their own thing here. But, so back to the house and the property, putting stones in the corners of your house, inside and outside if you want to help ground negative energy, is also a good idea. So you can, we have some large obsidian boulders that we picked up on a trip, and we have those out in our yard. And then in the house we have different stones that, we just sort of place with a purpose to sit in the corner, absorb any potential negative energy that might come in our direction, and ground it out into the earth. Now some people, when they do that, they then have to constantly clean that stone because it absorbs a certain amount and then gets clogged. So to prevent me from having to run around my house and finding my rocks, because sometimes I forget where I put them all the time to get them cleansed, what I do is when I place them, I put a grounding cord from the stone into the earth, so they're automatically dumping the whole time that they're there. So they sort of become a conduit for the energy to go to the ground, but they're not like the receptacle. They're not the thing that holds the negative energy in. They're the thing that lets the negative energy leave. And that works really well for me. I do that in my office as well. So that's another thing that you can do. And then you can do a threshold spell where you charge up. You put we have a charged object that I made to help people's thought forms kind of dissipate when they come into my house, so that we don't end up with psychic garbage to have to deal with when they're gone, because that happens, especially when you have students who are not as experienced, and it's not their fault, and it's not that they're trying to mess things up. It's just they don't have that much control over their own thoughts yet, and they haven't worked through some of their processes, and sometimes that stuff kind of sloughs off when they're in a class environment. And so I created this thing I found at Goodwill. It was like an angel. It's a metal thing, and it had like little metal lines coming up. And so I actually did stones across, one for each of the chakras on both sides, all the way up for the 7 chakras, and charged those stones up to try to clear out anyone who's walking underneath the door, clear out those energy centers, and anything negative would stay on the outside and they would come on the inside. And my thought process there is that it helps them, if they're coming in my house to be a student, it helps them be able to hear things better and leave some of that stuff behind. And it helps us, like I said, not have to figure out how to ground out and clear out their stuff when they're gone. So I have one of those in my office as well. I found a card of an angel's back. And I thought, well, that's pretty cool, because you don't usually see the back side of an angel on a card. You usually see the front. And so I can see that this figure is standing there, and I only see her back. Therefore, the front is on the other side. And I actually charged that object up and hung it on the top of the door coming into my office. So my clients, when they come through my door, everyday cares and things like that might interfere with their ability to relax and get better, will gently kind of fall off as they walk in. Most people don't notice that, but the sensitives that I've seen over the years that walk under that threshold know right away what's going on, because they can feel it. And I had that experience at a store we had here for a while, where someone did a threshold spell on the lintel on their store, and you walk through under the doorway, even though it was in a mall, and you're like in a different world. And that's what this is. It's like I'm creating an island around my property of energy that is compatible with me and not necessarily compatible with everyone. So people that don't want to have that are going to be automatically repelled by my energy and not want to come in my yard, which is good for me. And people who are a little more open or curious or aware are going to enjoy the shift in energy, and it makes it a welcoming environment for the spirits that I work with and some of the deities that I work with as well. So the thing is that you are in charge of creating the atmosphere that you live in, and you want to have your home, whether it's a house or an apartment, be a sanctuary for the work that you're doing. So a safe place. You know, it's like this is your safe environment. You want it to be that way so that you can do what you need to do. So that's some other ideas. Where you have your altar, of course, if you have an altar in your house, which a lot of us do, you're creating an energetic environment around your altar. So if you have your altar in your room like I do, and my husband has one in his room, then you're creating a charged atmosphere to sleep in. And if you aren't ready for some of the things that might happen while you're sleeping in that kind of environment, you should probably have your altar in a different part of the house, a small little room, an alcove or something like that, or even an outdoor space, so that you can shift back and forth between ordinary everyday things into magical reality and back. That's not something everybody's going to want to do. But if you start to feel oppressed, pressured, things are bothering you as you're doing your work, it probably means that something's either trying to come up for you that you need to work with, or something is pressuring you from the outside. And it's your environment. You're in charge of it. You decide what it feels like and what you can do with it. And whatever methods you use, be they crystals that you have, singing bowls, sage, sweetgrass, frankincense, the different scents and smells and so forth that we associate with positive things, that's up to you to put into your environment. It's not, anyone else is not going to do this for you. You're going to have to do this for yourself. And so you have to take charge of your space and make sure it's working the way you want it to. And the way I look at it is like the energy that I create in myself and the energy that I put around me and in my home environment, but even just in me that I take with me, is going to determine what kinds of things I attract to me. So if I want to attract positive spirits, good luck, nice energy, all that stuff, then I have to be in a frame of mind where I'm feeling that kind of energy. And so I don't get attacked by weird psychic denizens of the universe trying to take me out because they don't like me because I'm doing something against them, I guess, or whatever. But they're not going to like my energy. So like attracts like, and if you are dealing with a bunch of negative stuff in your life and you have a bunch of conflict and anger and rage or fights or confusion and any of that stuff happening, then you're going to continue to attract that kind of energy when you leave the house or attract it back into your house. And although nobody wants to have to change all the time, it's what this is all about. So you're going to want to do stuff in order to change it. And what I'm telling you is really these are the core issues. All the other stuff is like, it's the methods that you can use to get to those core issues or to deal with those core issues are not as important. Like the form that you choose, whether you're a ceremonialist or a druid or a pagan or Native American or whatever, the core of self-development and magic is the same throughout, and it's the methodology that changes, and methodologies fit some people better than others because of our cultural environment, our upbringing, our natural inclinations, our abilities, or our lacks, depending. So, this is the underlying reality of these things, and it's up to you to figure some of this stuff out. So like when I go out shopping, I have my charged bracelets on. We just went shopping a little while ago, and so I'm still wearing my bracelets. And I do this because I don't want to have to cast a circle around myself every single time I walk out the door. I've done that quite a bit, but I don't want to have to remember to do it just in case. So I've charged these stones up to do that for me. So when I put them on, they become a protective shield of energy and automatically reject negative energy and bring in positive energy. So I'm more likely to be able to go where I need to go to get what I need to get and find what I need to find. It's kind of, it's not like this is how it works, but it helps me to generate my own sense of flow so I can feel where the tides are going, energetically speaking, and go at the right time to get what I need and go to the right place to get what I need and not have someone hit me with their car. Doesn't mean you don't have to pay attention, but it helps. So it's like it's an attitude that you have. And then a lot of times when you're first starting out, especially, and you're trying to figure all this stuff out, and your mind is opening up to new possibilities, dreams start to become kind of strange, and a lot of people complain about nightmares. And there's some things that you can do about that, because you need to take control of your dream state as well as your waking state. You don't have to do it actively, you can do it passively, like making a dream catcher and charging that up for that purpose, which is one of the things we did for my granddaughter, who was having horrific nightmares like every night for the last 6 years since she was assaulted. And it worked for her, and she was really quite surprised. She was afraid to believe that it was working until it hadn't happened for 2 entire weeks. So breaking patterns can be difficult too. But other things that you can do depending on the stones that you have around you, and we all have challenges we have to figure out how to deal with, whatever they happen to be. If it's the genetics that we're born into, the families that we have, the upbringing that we had to go through to get to where we are, all this stuff, everyone has something that they have to figure out how to work through or change and transform into something that they want. So you're not alone when it comes to that kind of stuff. None of us are. And we've gone at this point, because we've been at this for a longer time, like I'm coming on about 55 years of doing this kind of stuff on a pretty regular basis. I've decided at this point I need more protection when I'm not awake, not aware of what's going on, especially as more people are interested in what we're doing, or the more people we talk to and that kind of thing. And so there's a thing that Franz Barden recommends to keep your unconscious protected, and that's taking a copper wire and a knife, a straight knife, new knife in this case, probably best considering what you're trying to do, and you wrap the copper wire around the hilt of the knife, put the hilt in the floor, point first at the head of the bed or the foot of the bed, but mine's at the head of the bed, and then you wrap the copper wire around the bed frame. So you just go around, you wrap it all the way around, and you're making a copper circle basically, and then you charge that up so that when you get into bed you are in a protected space. So that helps quite a bit too, because that gives you another layer of confidence as well as protection against things, especially when abilities start to open up, like mine are going crazy of late, where I'm seeing different beings in my room and stuff like that. Just had that happen 2 mornings ago, where I woke up and saw a figure standing next to my altar with its back to me, about the size of a child, about 3 feet tall or so. And it was just extremely clear. And then as I woke up all the way and my eyes focused, then it sort of faded off. But this kind of stuff happens. And you want to make sure that you're in a place where you can let these things happen and not feel like, you need to go to the emergency room and get a shot and make them stop. So you want to have control. I guess that's actually the bottom line of all of these suggestions, is it's you taking control of your environment. If you're living in an apartment, you need to modify some of the things that we've talked about, but you don't have to modify them too much. With the mirrors, you can put them, like, if you have a person on this side of your wall, on the other side of your wall, you put your mirror facing them. So the mirrors are facing out, and then outside windows facing out. And then if you have someone above you, you can put a small mirror up on the ceiling. If you have people below you, you can put a mirror down on the floor. You can put it underneath the carpet, or whatever. It doesn't have to be very obvious. And most people aren't even going to notice that it's there, but you're going to know that it's there because you put it there and it's become a part of your environment. So hopefully some of these suggestions are the exact thing you're trying to figure out how to do. And if you have any questions, send them to me, and I will elaborate on some of these methods if you'd like. So this is Siofra Bradigan and Siofra's Magic Alcove. So blessed be.